She walked into the wedding with quiet grace, wearing a simple dress and a shy smile. While others dazzled in designer gowns and sparkled in diamonds, she stayed close to the corner, unnoticed, until the whispers began. Some guests laughed behind their glasses of champagne, mocking her plain looks and modest style. To them, she didn't belong in such a luxurious setting. They didn't know who she really was, or who she came with. The bride, proud of her high society circle, made a snide comment loud enough to draw attention. "Did someone forget to send the dress code?" she said, barely hiding her smirk. Laughter followed. The simple woman didn't respond. She just stood there, calm, quiet, until her husband walked in. No one expected him. Tall, confident, and unmistakably powerful, he strolled through the ballroom with purpose. Eyes widened. Foam slipped out for discreet photos. That man. At this wedding, and with her what happened next changed everything. The man everyone thought was just a humble +1 turned out to be a billionaire. One who didn't take kindly to seeing his wife ridiculed. But instead of creating a scene, he waited until the party was over. Waited until the lights dimmed and the music faded. And then he made a phone call that would send shockwaves through the bride's world. Because the company the bride owned, the business she bragged about all evening, was no longer hers. The simple woman they mocked. She now had the final word. But what exactly did the billionaire do? And why did he target the bride's company, of all things? Stay tuned to find out how a quiet act of cruelty sparked a powerful revenge that no one saw coming. Her name was Elena. Most of the guests didn't even ask. To them, she was just the quiet girl tagging along. But Elena wasn't new to judgment. She grew up in a small town, raised by a single mother who told her that real worth isn't measured by what you wear, but how you treat people. She never cared much for luxury, even after marrying Daniel, the man no one expected her to end up with. Daniel was private, powerful, and rarely made public appearances. His name didn't need an introduction in business circles. A tech investor with a sharp eye and a reputation for staying out of drama. That night at the wedding, though, something changed. He watched his wife from across the room, watched her face stay calm as laughter circled her like vultures. Watched her stay composed while others tried to humiliate her. And he remembered what she told him once. Sometimes silence is the strongest answer. The bride, Olivia, wasn't just throwing a wedding. She was showing off. She was proud of the fashion label she'd launched 2 years earlier. She'd made a fortune off influencers and exclusive deals, and the brand had become a symbol of high society taste. Elena didn't fit into that world, not in their eyes. But what Olivia didn't know was that Daniel had already been eyeing her company for a quiet buyout. It was profitable, but poorly managed. And after that night, Daniel didn't just see a good investment. He saw a message. Behind the scenes, his team was already in motion. A deal was being drafted. No press, no drama, just business. But when Olivia woke up the next morning, her signature brand, and everything she'd built, was already slipping from her hands. And she still didn't know who had pulled the strings. Olivia spent the morning after her wedding basking in compliments and scrolling through tagged photos. She had no idea that while she was sipping mimosas, lawyers were finalizing paperwork that would change her life. Her fashion brand, the one she'd built from the ground up, had caught the interest of a mysterious buyer days before the wedding. The offer was quiet, clean, and too good for her partners to refuse. By the time she noticed something was off, decisions had already been made without her. Elena, meanwhile, said nothing. She never liked revenge. But she also never forgot the way Olivia laughed at her like she didn't matter. Still, she didn't ask Daniel to do anything. He acted on his own. Daniel had a rule. You don't touch what I love. He wasn't driven by ego. He was driven by protection. Elena had stood by him when he had nothing but an idea and a borrowed office space. Her loyalty wasn't loud, but it was unshakable. Behind closed doors, Daniel's team had uncovered cracks in Olivia's business. The brand was flashy, yes, but it had problems. Missed deadlines, supplier issues, a lawsuit brewing over unpaid contracts. It looked perfect on the outside, but the foundation was weak. Daniel didn't destroy it. He just stepped in while it was already slipping. And as Olivia tried to call her business manager, who had suddenly gone quiet, another voice entered the picture, Tessa, a former employee of Olivia's who'd been fired for not fitting the brand image. She had her own story, one about how appearances meant more than people, one that made Daniel's interest even more personal. The media hadn't caught on yet, but when they did, it wouldn't be just a business headline, it would be the start of something bigger. And Olivia still had no idea how deep this was going to go. Olivia's calls kept going to voicemail. Her assistant didn't show up. Her inbox was flooded with unread messages marked urgent. Confused but still confident, she brushed it off, until her legal advisor finally replied with a short, cold message. *, we need to talk. Now. *, she hurried to her office, still in a haze from the wedding, only to find her access card deactivated. Security stopped her at the door. That's when the panic hit. Inside the boardroom, a meeting was already underway. Her partners, people she trusted, sat stiffly around the table. The mood was tense, and not one person would meet her eyes. The name on the acquisition papers chilled her. Orion Capital *, she'd heard of them. Everyone had. A private firm known for playing quiet, aggressive moves in the fashion and tech industries. They didn't just buy businesses, they rewired them. Ruthlessly, efficiently. Olivia's voice trembled as she demanded answers, but it was too late. Her controlling share had been diluted during the last investment round, a detail she hadn't taken seriously. That's how Orion slipped in. Silent, clean, legal. She wasn't out completely, but she was no longer the boss. And the worst part, no one had to tell her who was behind it. Her heart sank as she remembered Elena's face at the wedding, calm, soft-spoken, but unshakable. The realization hit her like a wave. This wasn't an accident. Across the city, Daniel was in a closed-door meeting with Tessa. Her story was even worse than Elena's. Public humiliation, workplace bullying, and a career nearly destroyed for not being on brand. She had receipts, emails, voice memos, photos. Evidence Olivia never thought would surface. Now Daniel had everything. The company, the backstory, the leverage. And the next move. It would hit far beyond business. Just as Daniel was preparing to release Tessa's story through a trusted journalist, something unexpected landed on his desk, a letter hand-delivered and unsigned. It wasn't from Olivia. It was from someone deeper inside her company, a whistleblower. The letter included details Daniel hadn't uncovered yet: financial misreporting, falsified sustainability claims, and a silent investor with a questionable past. This wasn't just a petty takeover anymore. Now it was a legal storm waiting to explode. Daniel leaned back in his chair, the weight of this new information settling in. If what the letter claimed was true, the brand Olivia had built wasn't just poorly run, it was corrupt at the core. And if Orion Capital exposed it, the fallout wouldn't just touch Olivia. It would drag down every investor, partner, and influencer tied to the brand, including some of Daniel's own allies. Now the decision wasn't so simple: push forward and risk setting off a public scandal, or pull back and leave justice unfinished. Meanwhile, Olivia was scrambling to regain control. She called in favors, begged old contacts, and even tried to trace the anonymous buyer. But Daniel stayed invisible. She still didn't know it was him. Not for sure. But her gut told her the truth, and it made her furious. She started planning her own counterstrike. If she couldn't get her company back, she'd take something from Elena, something personal. What Olivia didn't know was that someone from her own team had already flipped. Tessa wasn't the only one with a story to tell. As pressure built on both sides, the line between business and revenge started to blur. This wasn't just about power anymore. It was about pride, secrets, and the cost of underestimating the quietest person in the room. And the next move would change everything. The press release dropped early on a Monday morning, just before the markets opened. Headlines spread fast. Luxury fashion brand under investigation for fraudulent practices. The article detailed whistleblower claims, leaked documents, and internal communications. It was all there: names, dates, numbers. The story broke across business channels and fashion blogs alike, sending Olivia's world into chaos. Investors pulled out within hours. Influencers began quietly removing tags. And by noon, her brand's website had crashed under the weight of sudden traffic. Olivia finally got her answer. It was Daniel. His name was listed in the article as the controlling partner of Orion Capital, the firm that had completed the acquisition. But what stunned her more was the final line of the article. Elena Wells, new co-chairwoman, declined to comment. The simple woman she mocked had now taken a seat at the very top of the empire Olivia built. Olivia stormed into her former office, now with new security, new staff, and her keycards still useless. But there, waiting in the conference room, sat Elena, calm, poised, and looking straight at her. "You could have just walked away," Olivia snapped. Elena didn't raise her voice. "So could you. But you needed people to look down on." The room fell silent. Olivia didn't respond. She had no ground left to stand on. But as she turned to leave, something on Elena's desk caught her eye. A folder marked with a name Olivia recognized. It wasn't hers. It was Daniel's next target. A rival brand even bigger than hers. One run by the very people who helped mock Elena in the first place. Olivia paused, then looked back. "You're not done, are you?" Elena just smiled softly. "I'm just getting started." And in that moment, Olivia realized this was never just about revenge. It was a reckoning. In the weeks that followed, the fashion industry was shaken. Olivia disappeared from the spotlight, her brand now restructured under Elena and Daniel's leadership. What was once known for shallow glamour slowly began transforming into something else, more ethical, more transparent, and more human. The new direction surprised everyone, especially those who thought Elena would use her position for revenge. But she didn't. She chose grace. Tessa was hired back, not just as a designer, but as part of the executive team focused on workplace culture and inclusion. Her voice, once dismissed, now shaped policy. And for the first time in years, she felt seen. She wasn't just a footnote in someone else's success. She was part of the foundation. As for Daniel, he kept his promise to stay in the background. He never wanted credit. He only wanted Elena to be treated with the respect she deserved. They often walked through the newly renovated design studio together, hand in hand, quietly proud of what had grown out of something once built on ego. Olivia, now out of the picture, had time to reflect. Away from flashing lights and curated perfection, she began to see the truth behind her rise and her fall. It wasn't about being replaced. It was about being exposed. The world she built wasn't taken from her. It was simply handed over to someone who valued people more than image. In the end, Elena never changed who she was. She remained simple, quiet, kind. And that was her strength. Not her husband's wealth, not the power she gained, but the dignity she held, even when the world tried to mock it. Because sometimes the quietest woman in the room doesn't need to shout to be heard. She just needs to be underestimated.